At approximately 3:21 a.m. on July 5, 1985, the Atlanta Braves were down a run, down to their last out, and down to only starting pitchers on their bench. With the pitcher's spot due up, rather than pinch hit with one of those starters, Rick Camp, who had pitched a scoreless 17th before allowing the go-ahead run in the 18th, was left in to try to extend the game. He was a career .060 hitter, bad by even pitcher's standards, and he was the last hope for the smallish crowd who had stuck it out at Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium, now nearly 8 hours after the game was originally meant to have started. Considering Camp had also hit for exactly 0 home runs and 6 RBIs in 8.5 seasons, it seemed that this marathon game was only seconds away from ending. Mets catcher Gary Carter, who knew Camp to be a weak hitter, waved his outfielders in. Camp took a strong swing at the first pitch, fouling it back. From the broadcast booth, John Sterling offered a line that would quickly appear to be prophecy.
Ernie, if he hits a home run to tie this game, his game will be certified as absolutely the nuttiest in the history of baseball.
You probably know what happens in this at-bat, but before we continue to talk about this game, we have to talk about this game to explain why the thing that happened couldn't possibly have happened. Anyway, here's a bunch of stats, fun facts, boring facts, and random bits of nonsense about the Rick Camp game. While the Braves would improve their record from 1985 to 86, going from truly terrible to a more regular kind of bad, they still fell to last place in the standings. The Mets, on the other hand, finished hot in 85 and cruised to a division title in 1986. Then, just for kicks, they sent their championship squad back in time to July 4th, 1985, to pull the meanest prank of all time on the Braves. That's not fair. Maybe they were inspired by Back to the Future being released a day prior, but for whatever reason, the team that took the field that day was basically a bunch of time travelers from the world champion 86 Mets. All the most important pieces were already in place. If we look at the 9 players on the field when the Mets recorded the final out of the World Series, 8 of them appear in this game. Holy crap, what a glove launch. If you were caught between the moon and New York City on this night, you probably got smacked in the face with a big hand made of leather. Roger McDowell appeared in relief in both games, and Ron Darling started one and finished the other. Mookie Wilson and Sid Fernandez were Mets in 1985, though they didn't play in this game, with Mookie on the disabled list and Sid scheduled to start for the Mets in a couple days. In fact, it was Mookie's recent injury that paved the way for Lenny Dykstra to be called up from AAA Tidewater. The only recent additions were Lee Mazzilli, a former Met of 6 seasons who came back to the club as a free agent in August '86, Kevin Mitchell, a Mets prospect who played 7 games with the big club in 1984 before spending all of '85 playing for Tidewater, and Tim Tuffle, acquired prior to the '86 season from Minnesota in the Billy Beane trade. Another reason the thing that happened couldn't possibly have happened, lineup aside, the Braves were facing the best pitcher in the world that day. The Goonies and their famous motto, "It's Goonin' Time," was released in theaters on June 7, 1985, 4 weeks before this game. And just like those lovable scamps, not you, Corey Feldman, Dwight Gooden was growing up fast in 1985, doing the truffle shuffle all over the National League. That's right, even though we all remember him as a Houston Astros legend, he was also pretty good for the Mets. So good, in fact.
Good, in fact!
He'll be a unanimous Cy Young Award winner 4 months after this game. This was his only start of 1985 of fewer than 5 innings, with 25 of his 35 starts lasting at least 8, as though the fate of the Gooners depended on how many outs he could record. He also issued 4 walks in only 2 1/3 innings, tied for the most walks of any start in his season. Finally, this was one of only 2 games in 1985 that Doc finished with more walks than strikeouts. Even with this rain-soaked dud on his record, he would lead MLB in wins, ERA, and strikeouts in 1985, a pitching triple crown, as well as leading in complete games, ERA+, and FIP. You know what? I'm officially upgrading him from pretty good to really good. So good, in fact.
Good, in fact!
That his 12.2 pitching WAR in 1985 is the best of the live ball era, or 1920 to present. His 13.3 total WAR is second since 1920, behind only Babe Ruth's sultanic swatty total in 1923. Gooden also hit well for a pitcher. Looking ahead to his final full month of 1985, we can see his hitting stats and pitching stats combine into the perfect recipe for a curveball throwing supervillain whose sole motivation is to make opposing ball players cry like eensy-weensy babies. 44 innings without an earned run allowed on the mound, while hitting .471 with a homer and 7 RBIs at the dish? Calm your tits, Doc. Coincidentally, the single homer and 7 ribbies that Doc knocked in September '85 exactly matches the career stats of some schmo I've never heard of. Despite the unanimous Cy Young Award, as well as the voters having a weird pitcher for MVP boner back then, Gooden failed to win the top prize despite clearly having the best season of them all. We can likely attribute this to the voters tending to recognize division winners, as well as having some kind of kink for dudes named Willie. And I guess they just got confused about Clement's first name. All those numbers conclusively point to Dwight defeating the evil Fratelli family and saving the homes for all his buddies, and their horribly disfigured indentured servant. I'm hereby retconning Doc as being short for Goondocks Gooden. Cyndi Lauper even spells it out on the soundtrack. Okay, let's pause. I've just spent a lot of time talking about the Mets, despite this game being remembered for the thing done by a Braves player. Let's talk about it. A whole mess of crap happened in this game. From Keith Hernandez hitting for the cycle, Darryl Strawberry and Davey Johnson getting ejected, and Lenny Dykstra roaming an outfield so full of puddles, you'd think that Riley Reid was playing center for the Braves. That's still all Mets stuff. Talk about we had bonus. The Braves were gooning too, never saying die, in a game where they faced 5 different deficits, thanks in part to Hall of Fame closer Bruce Sutter blowing a save in the 9th, and had actually already had a miraculous homer before the thing, with Terry Harper knocking one off the foul pole when the Braves were down to their final out in the 13th. But the reason people still talk about this game is that the thing that happened simply couldn't possibly happen. Here's why. It was then, and remains today, the only time a pitcher has hit a game-tying home run in extra innings. By my estimation, there had already been at least 100 games in Major League history by 1985, so it should have happened before that. Not only was it the sole game-tying homer ever hit by a pitcher in extras, it's also the only time a pitcher has gone yard after the 13th inning. We can safely come to the conclusion that Kendrick Camp is the only good pitcher in baseball history, and all the rest are certified lover boy, certified belly itchers. Wop, wop, wop. Smashing those last 2 figures together, this is also the only game-tying home run hit so late into a game, regardless of position. And along with Terry Harper's previously mentioned 13th inning shot, it's the only time a team has twice hit a home run in extras when down to their final out. Not only that, but both of these homers were hit on an 0-2 count. I guess we should finally watch them.
It'll be an 0-2 pitch. And he hits it to deep left. Heat goes back. It is gone. Holy cow. Oh my goodness. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Rick Camp.
Terry Harper's home run to tie the game in the 13th was his 8th of 1985, by far the best season of his essentially replacement-level career. In fact, he never hit more than 8 homers in a season before or after 1985, when he hit a respectable 17. It's truly remarkable that his son, 2-time MVP, and College of Southern Nevada legend Bryce, has gone on to have such an incredible career when you consider how mediocre Dad's career was. No, I didn't personally administer a paternity test, but they have the same last name. Go Coyotes! Another reason that none of this could have happened is that these guys were all playing with Red and Andy at Shawshank. Camp himself, as well as Lenny Dykstra, Gooden, and Strawberry all appear here on Baseball Almanac's list of Major League Baseball players who went to prison. That's fun. I mean, not for them. There's even a Ted Turner on the list, but he's not to be confused with Braves owner Ted Turner or Braves manager Ted Turner. What? That's right, Braves owner Ted Turner also managed his squad for a single game in 1977, a loss before the league intervened and banned the practice. For those who don't know the rest of the story, after hitting his tying home run in the bottom of the 18th while the Braves were down to their last strike, Camp returned to the mound in the 19th and promptly gave up 5 runs. Oh, shit. Sorry. The Braves would actually rally in the bottom of the 19th, scoring 2 and putting 2 aboard, and Camp would again be their final hope. On a 1-2 count, Rick Camp swung through a high Ron Darling fastball and struck out to end the Rick Camp game. He'd retire at the end of the season, collecting a pair of singles in the final 6 at-bats of his career, though his home run would be his final run scored, run batted in, and extra base hit. His last at-bat came on 9/11, which meant nothing at the time, but now seems appropriately patriotic for a player who debuted in 1976, America's bicentennial, and had his biggest moment in a game started on the 4th of July, America's divorce anniversary. Holy crap, that's 40 years ago today. How lucky. Since 1985, the Braves have played in 2 19-inning games, winning both of them. As a baseball fan on YouTube, there's a good chance that you're familiar with one of them. Not this one. This one. Their controversial 19th inning win in 2011 was the subject of Foolish Baseball's first episode of Baseball Bits. The Mets finished with 28 hits in the Rick Camp game, still a franchise record. And finally, it's trivia time. Guess the player from the Rick Camp game. 57 players have hit 10 or more postseason home runs, but with Randy Arozarena's 100th regular season home run on June 30th, 2025, there remains one player with at least 10 postseason home runs and fewer than 100 in the regular season. Who am I? Or who is it? It's not me. Yo, who the F is Lemmy Dykstra? Thanks for watching.